Microsoft has sunk to new lows in its attempts to be trendy and in line with the culture. Their problem, however, is that this time they're really on the wrong side of it. Let's explore. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Freedom Alternative. Microsoft, up until maybe as late as 2009, was generally a net positive to the tech world. Yes, they had weird and sometimes unethical practices, but overall, Windows XP and 7 were good operating systems, and Windows 2003 server isn't really that bad, and this is coming from a Windows hater like me. But after 2009, something radical changed. Since then, Microsoft went to being generally a net negative, not just in the tech world, but in general. They renounced any pretense of respecting its users, and now they're pushing politically correct nonsense. CNET titles "Dancing Schoolgirls Damaged the Brand," Microsoft execs say. Technically incorrect. In an email to staff, Xbox's chief excoriates his company's party at last week's Game Developers Conference. And here we go again. The dancing has stopped, but the gyrations of anger have not. After Microsoft and Xbox were heavily criticized for presenting dancers as sexy schoolgirls during its Thursday night party at the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco, Xbox CEO Phil Spencer sent an email to his staff expressing his intense disappointment. His email, obtained by The Verge but confirmed by an Xbox spokeswoman as genuine, didn't perform a delicate two-step. It has come to my attention that at Xbox-hosted events at GDC this past week, we represented Xbox and Microsoft in a way that was absolutely not consistent or aligned to our values, the email read in part. That was unequivocally wrong and will not be tolerated. Not consistent or aligned with our values. Microsoft has values? That should be the headline. Anyway, Spencer had publicly expressed his regret already, but Friday's email went further. This matter is being handled internally, but let me be very clear: how we represent ourselves as individuals, who we hire and partner with, and how we engage with others is a direct reflection of our brand and what we stand for, he said. His wasn't the only email from a senior Microsoft figure. Kathleen Hogan, Microsoft's Executive Vice President of Human Resources, sent a note to all Microsoft employees, and it read in part, quote, "What we heard about this and saw the photos, the entire senior leadership team was embarrassed and appalled. This is unacceptable in terms of how we treat women and how we represent Microsoft, and it undermines the culture we are working so hard to cultivate. One that is diverse and inclusive and grounded in a growth mindset. We're not going to tolerate this. I appreciate that we will be judged by our deeds and not just by our words. And yet every day we see our people taking important and meaningful steps forward in our journey towards inclusion. As one example, at this same Game Developers Conference, we had dedicated and passionate Microsoft employees sponsoring a Gaming for Everyone event. I have heard from many of you individually and on Yammer that you can't believe we let this happen. It is not a stretch to say that the company as a whole is shocked and upset, and that we all are determined that this is never repeated. Microsoft's employee relations and investigations team is involved to make sure we have a full understanding of what happened. And beyond this incident, we are strengthening our commitment to our diversity and inclusion efforts, while evaluating where we must take stronger action to show we are more resolute than ever to make progress and hold ourselves accountable." In his email, Spencer made clear that we justly deserve the criticism. As someone pointing out, the harking back to sexist tones was one that Xbox had been trying to escape during the GDC lunch event entitled Women in Games. It's unfortunate that such events could take place in a week where we worked so hard to engage the many different gaming communities in the exact opposite way, Spencer said in his email. Spencer insisted that Xbox must openly demonstrate an inclusive culture. This is because it has a direct impact on the products and services we deliver and the perceptions consumers have of the Xbox brand and our company as a whole. Microsoft and Xbox apparently still have more work to do. Now look, I showed this link to several hundreds of commonsensical people, i.e. normal people that are part of the overwhelming majority of the planet, and none of them could point out to me what is the news, or what is the scandal. So I went to the comments and read those by the cultural Marxists and politically correct cucks, and I still don't fully get what the problem is. The best I can come up with is that this particular party was problematic because the dancing girls were sexy and because some of them tried really hard to look like 15-year-old girls, and that's bad because it's pedophilia. No, seriously, that's what they say. Which goes to show that the politically correct pansies are essentially the new Puritans, since the argument that being attracted to 15-year-olds is pedophilia is essentially a Puritan argument, worthy of the American social temperance movement, but which otherwise is laughed out of the room on most of the planet. In fact, with the exception of Britain, it's perfectly legal to shag 15-year-olds in Europe, and for bloody good reason. However, there is some difference between the Puritans and the PC pansies. At least the Puritans mistakenly believed that they were protecting 15-year-olds, but they meant actual 15-year-olds, whilst the PC pansies go full Macintosh, no pun intended, at a Microsoft event with 30-year-olds pretending to be 15. And I know you'll say that Microsoft is a private business and it can do what it pleases, and sure they can, but that doesn't mean they aren't wrong. The fact that they're a private company doesn't change the fact that they promote completely insane ideas, and it also doesn't mean that they aren't fucking creepy. I mean, listen to this language, quote, "This matter is being handled internally, but let me be very clear. How we represent ourselves as individuals, who we hire and partner with, and how we engage with others is a direct reflection of our brand and what we stand for." Really? That's not a corporate culture, that's a cult. Because only a cult is self-centered enough to think that how a coder represents himself as an individual is somehow a direct reflection upon the brand of his employer. Not even Apple does that, and that's a world-renowned cult. At the end of the day, what did they do that's so horrible? Being attracted to sexy women? I'm sorry to bust some people's bubbles, but the 95% of the dudes are attracted to sexy women, and will continue to do so and enjoy being in the presence of sexy, young, fertile women. Outside of the Dumbler and the anti-science bubble in which the idiots that currently run Microsoft reside, there is such thing as genetic mandates of natural selection present in each species of this planet. That's why we like young women. And no, that's not a social construct, no matter how much you'd wish it were. Reacting negatively to the presence of pretty women requires a tremendous amount of brainless hypocrisy, of which there seems to be no shortage of in Microsoft. Finding offense in something so natural and, yes, normal speaks more about those who now pollute their employees' emails with cries of, "There shall not be tolerated." It speaks more about them than about those who allegedly committed the alleged offense. Now, some commentators opine that this is a publicity stunt by Microsoft to get free coverage in a moment when Microsoft is far from being in a great shape. That may indeed be true, but the consumers also have the option to produce a reversed effect. I mean, I like Pretty Women, but I can do without Wimbledow's 10, which should probably be renamed as Wimbledow's 7 Crippled Edition, because that's exactly what it is. If you're wondering why the investments in technology are gradually but consistently moving away from the United States and into Berlin and Tel Aviv, this is the reason. What's coming from the tech world in the United States has become way too toxic. And I'm not talking just about ideological toxicity, but about generalized toxicity. Not only the tech sector is less and less concerned about their actual product and more concerned with meaningless virtue signaling, but their actual products suck more and more. And instead of focusing on how to fix that, they're busy chastising some nerds for having a schoolgirls themed party. You fucking morons. That's all I had to say. Thanks for watching.